So when you look at yourself, you need to do a deep dive session with God and say, God, who am I? Who am I? That vision is critical. That vision is important, that you understand who you are. Let me give you an example. People. There's many people, right? There's a whole lot of people. Every person is not the same. Every person does not have the same vision, the same calling, the same purpose. They are built differently. They are made differently. People that are in America would have trouble sustaining themselves in third world countries, maybe places in Africa and what have you. Why? Because, when God put you here, he put you here for such a time as this, in such a place as this, and what he gave you, the makeup, the strength, the wherewithal that is in you is different than the wherewithal, the strength, the tenacity that he gave folks that are in other places that are able to weather conditions that you can't weather. Okay, so if you take cars, some cars are built to go off into, they call them off-road. Okay, the chassis is built different. They have bigger tires. Their engine is different. They drive in 4 wheels instead of 2 wheels, and so you can take this vehicle into conditions that you couldn't take a Cadillac, a CTS. Let's say that. Okay, you couldn't take that in there. You couldn't take that where you could take a Hummer, because a Hummer is built different. But the point I'm trying to make to you is that you have to understand its purpose. A Hummer is built to go into rugged terrain. A Cadillac CTS, coming from the same manufacturer, is not made to go into those terrains. Why? If you take it into deep woods, it ain't coming out. It may not even be able to get up in there. But once it does, it's going to get to a place where it's going to stop. And at that point, it's going to discover, I wasn't built for this. I wasn't built for this. Years ago, I was trying to find my way, and my brother was trying to help me with some things. He's in insurance, and that's his thing. That's his forte. And so I'm trying some things out, and so you don't never put all your eggs in one basket. So I said, okay, well let me get. I got a lot of things under my belt, but let me see what this is all about. And so I go out and I start to experiment with this whole thing. And so one day I had to go to a person's house, and when I went to the person's house, when I walked into the house, the lady was sitting there, and let me tell you, this is no exaggeration, true story. It was roaches everywhere that you could see. And so I'm not built for roaches. I just ain't built for that. She was sitting in there, her and her daughter. Her daughter was on the couch, and the roaches was crawling all over the couch. She had a book in her hand, and she didn't pay no attention. Did you heard me? She didn't give it any attention of what the roaches was doing. And so the lady asked me to have a seat. She pulled out a chair at the kitchen. Now, understand, I done lost my train of thought. I don't even know why I'm there. I am freaking out. And so I looked at my environment, and although I looked at, okay, this is a new venture, I'm trying to do something different, and this may be another stream of income, what have you, I wasn't built for it. It wasn't my purpose. It wasn't my calling. I didn't enjoy it. None of that. I left that house. I told that lady, I said, ma'am, excuse me. I said, I got to go out to my truck. I told a lie. I ain't going to lie to y'all. I told a lie. I said, I got to go out to my truck. I'll be right back. I got my laptop. I went to my truck, and I put it in drive, and I skedaddled. Did you heard? I got out of there so fast that I didn't even know when I hit the red light. I mean, I was gone. And I was checking myself. I started itching and all kind of stuff. Now, I'm not saying that, I'm not knocking, because that environment could have been placed on them for a variety of reasons, and I'm not to be the judge. My point that I'm trying to get to you is what I discovered out of that. My understanding out of that was that it wasn't for me. It wasn't my calling. It wasn't my calling. So I had to regroup and say, hey, bro, listen, because I called him up and he said to me, he said, well, you know, man, he said, that's part of the job, the terror that comes with some kind of craziness. I said, well, that's part of the job, the territory for you. That ain't part for me. I'm out. I'm done with this crap. And, you know, I just, you know, and that's what we gotta do. You have to know who you are. You have to know your limitations. You have to know how far you can go. So without that vision, you're void of vision, because that ain't you. My thing was, I was a builder. Okay, so anything when you in remodeling, construction, and all that, that's where my forte was. I understood machinery. I understood building. I understood engineering. All that. That was me. I'm like, oh yeah. Now I'm in my element. But for him, that wasn't him. So I tried to get off into an element that didn't belong to me. And if he tried my element, he would try to get off into an element that didn't belong to him. It's a lot of people to this day. You are working in areas that you're not supposed to be in. Some people are engineers and they was never called to be an engineer. Just they engineer because they smart. And so they heard about it. They went to school for it. They invested all this time in it. And every day they get up, they work in an engineering environment, and they are miserable. So let's just start with that. If you are doing something today that makes you miserable, then you know that is not a part of your call. When you go back and you revisit Jeremiah 1 and 5, when God says, I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified and ordained thee to be a prophet unto the nations, then you know that what God ordained you to be was not that you are disgusted about. Every day. I ain't saying that you won't have challenges in what you were called to do, because Jeremiah certainly was challenged, but he couldn't give it up. And that's the reason why you read, he says it feels like fire that is shut up in my bones. Now, that's not the context in which most of us have discovered that verse of scripture. When you get to preaching, I feel fire shut up in my bones. That is not that. What that meant is that there's something about me. There's something about the way that God made me that suggests to me that I can't quit. Every time I try to get away from it, it pulls me back into it. I gotta do it. My life depends on it. When I wake up, it's with me all day, all night, every day, 24/7. That's one of the reasons why I'm here, because life took me into a direction and I said, I quit. I ain't doing this preaching stuff no more. I knew God had called me. I knew all that stuff. I got it. But I got to a point to where I said, I'm done. It's over. You know, I don't see this working for me the way that it's supposed to work for me. See? And so I stepped out. I jumped off the boat. But while I jumped off the boat, I couldn't get away from the call. I couldn't get away from the ordination. And so I had to come back. Why? Because it felt like fire that was pent up. It was shut up in my bones, and I couldn't do nothing with it. Even though I could go out and I could start business, I could be successful with that, and I could do this, that, and the other thing. At the end of the day, I was still empty. And why was I empty? Because what God ordained me to do, what He purposed for my life to do, I was not doing that. And so that fire was burning me. It was burning me. It wasn't me, ooh, it wasn't doing that. It was burning me on the inside and said, you better get back into what I called you to do. I ordained you for such a time as this. And it's not that it's going to be comfortable the whole way through, but it's the thing that's going to make you complete. And so now when I get up and I do this before you all, I love what I'm doing. Am I struggling, having some concerns about it? You know, do I think about the faith part when God told me to get up and do this, and the audience is the walls and Him, and have faith that He's going to do what He said He's going to do by this time next year? Things are going to be different, but I got to go through that process. And so in order for me to get faith to you, I have to understand that faith works for me. This was the reason why Moses worked out on the backside of the desert. Take your staff, Moses, put it down. Let it turn into something other than what it was. Then you reach down, you pick it up. It turns back into a staff. Moses was doing the things behind the curtain before he came before Pharaoh. Okay, so we got to work that whole thing out. And let me tell you something. Don't be dismayed because God tells you to do something. And when He tells you to do something, like in the case of Zechariah and Elizabeth, when the angel Gabriel came to Zechariah and to Elizabeth, he told her that she would be without child, and they looked around and they saw all the reasons why that would not happen, like it was with Abraham and Sarah. I'm aged, I'm old, my womb, you know, all this kind of stuff. And even after he left and he gave to Zechariah's wife Elizabeth, when he gave it to her, the baby did not move in her for 6 months. The baby did not even leap inside of her for 6 months. The Bible says when Mary came, then the baby leaped. That's when John leaped. So we're getting frustrated and we're getting all dismayed because we're trying to get God to move as soon as He speaks. But God don't always move when He speaks. What God will do is He'll give you something and then He'll make it go dormant. It's dormant. And you got to wait. In that waiting period, He is testing your faith. And I ain't talking about the faith of man. I ain't talking about you out there and you got your filler gauge out there and you got your hope into a system. You got your hope into a name. You got your hope into a man, into a business. I ain't talking about that. And you doing all the things that you can do to make it come to you. I know that's different than faith when God calls you to something. That's different. It's a different kind of faith. It's faith nonetheless, but it's a different type of faith. The type of faith that God calls you to is a crazy faith. He'll call you to something that there's no way that a man can help you. There's no way that nothing around you, there's nothing inside of you or outside of you that can help you. Okay? All right. So listen, we are going to park it right there. This is Face-to-Face Ministries, and we're going to pick it right back. So right back up. I'll be back here in a few minutes, and we're going to